Hello and welcome to In Touch with Durham County. I'm Deborah Craig Ray, General Manager of Strategic Planning and Innovation. With me is our co-host, Wendy Jacobs, Chair of the Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you, Deborah. We use this show to share valuable information about the wonderful programs and services provided by Durham County Government.
It's our pleasure to welcome our Durham County Director of Elections, Derek Bowens, and Elections Board Member Phil Lehman, who are here to tell us all we need to know about elections. Durham Pre-K is an exciting initiative supported by Durham County Government to expand access to 4-year-old publicly funded preschool services. Linda Chappel, Senior Vice President, Triangle Area Child Care Resource and Referral Services, and Cheryl Brown, owner of Brown's Early Learning Center, join us in our second segment to share great news about this major initiative. Chair Jacobs, let's begin.
Well, thank you, Derek and Phil, for being with us here today to inform us about the ever-changing landscape around elections, and we're delighted to have you all with us today. Could you tell our audience about the responsibilities and structure of the Durham County Board of Elections?
I can start with that. The responsibilities are pretty clear. I mean, it's our duty, our job to make sure the elections are fair and secure and accessible. We want to make the elections open as possible so as many people can vote as possible. We have lots of opportunities to vote here in Durham with early voting, absentee, and of course, Election Day. On the structure, right now, we have a 5-member Board of Elections. I'm currently the chair, but there have been a lot of changes in the past year. It's gone from a 3-member board to a 4-member board to right now a 5-member board. And there's always been a balance of political parties on the board. We started at the beginning of last year with 2 Republicans and 1 Democratic member, and then it went to 2-2, and now it's 3 Democratic members and 2 Republican members. That's the board. We meet once a month for regular meetings, more frequently around election time. The meetings are open to the public, and people are free to come, free to ask questions. The real work is done by the staff, and as you mentioned, Derek Bowens is the elections director. We have a full-time staff of 11 people who do the work to make sure our elections are fair and reasonable. And of course, we have lots of people who I consider volunteers, even though they're paid an hourly rate to staff the election sites, particularly on Election Day, when you have people working basically 14 hours and who have other jobs, families, and take the time off to work on our elections. And without them, we couldn't do it. And I think they deserve a whole lot of credit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we also appreciate all of the citizens who volunteer to be also on the Board of Elections, and as you mentioned, everyone who helps make the election happen, all the residents of Durham, and our wonderful election staff. Derek, can you discuss the 2019 election cycle and any new things that are going to be implemented with the Durham County Board of Elections?
Yeah, so this year is obviously municipal elections. City of Durham runs a primary and election system, so we'll have a primary this year on October the 8th, and we'll have a municipal election, a general election for those that reside within the respective municipalities on November 5th. While the elections are generally conducted for City of Durham residents, we also have municipalities that bleed into Durham County. So we have City of Raleigh, which will also have a small election here for us in Durham, the town of Morrisville, and also the town of Chapel Hill. So we're actually running 4 elections concurrently. City of Raleigh in October, Durham in the City of Raleigh in October, and then in November we'll have the town of Morrisville, Chapel Hill, the Durham election, and if Wake County, or Raleigh rather, has a runoff, we would also have that election event in November as well. So a lot of planning is going on. Candidate filing for the March 2020 presidential preference primary, along with other races such as county commissioner primary, a few others. Candidate filing will start December 2nd this year in prep for that pushed up election date, which has been in the past in May, which is now in March. So a lot of preparations going on. Board will be discussing early voting plans here. Already have begun the process of discussing them for 2019, but the 2020 discussions will also start this year in prep for 2020. So lots of activities going on, and excited about the elections coming up.
Great. Now, I know one thing I wanted to throw in real quickly. There's been a lot of work over in the legislature making some changes to what ID can be used, how and when. Could you talk about that a little bit, please?
I can discuss briefly, and certainly Mr. Chair chime in. Session Law 2018-144 was passed late last year, which essentially was written to implement the constitutional amendment that passed requiring photo identification to vote in person in North Carolina. That bill is actually, that session law, we were planned to start in 2019 for photo identification requirements in person at the polls, but recent legislation extended that into 2020. So this year is essentially an outreach campaign for the State Board of Elections and the county boards to make sure people are informed about those requirements. If they're still in place, there's lots of litigation right now challenging the implementation of that bill. So there's various different types of IDs. I'm hard pressed to get in too much detail because the change is constant.
That's right.
But things such as driver's license, passports, military ID cards, veteran ID cards, tribal enrollment cards, employee identification cards, student ID cards if certain requirements are met. We actually, several entities, students, for students and employees of local government will have an opportunity, if a bill passes, currently House Bill 646 in the House, which has passed the House and is in the Senate, will give jurisdictions, schools, as well as localities the opportunity to submit their ID badges for potential use in elections in 2020. So we're grateful for that bill if it passes, and the fact that we would be able to extend those deadlines to incorporate more.
Now, would any of this put us in the business of making IDs for the community at all?
Yes, so we actually have to begin issuing photo IDs in counties in North Carolina on May 1st. So we've spent our $1,795 to purchase our photo ID issuance machines. Our board is definitely very active and engaging in the sense that they would like us to go outside of the walls of the county board to engage in those issuances. So we actually have purchased another machine to do more outreach outside of those walls. So yes, May 1st we have to start issuing to those that request a photo ID for the purposes of voting, and we're ready to engage in that.
It's made it a little bit difficult to plan because, as you know, voter ID requirements have been under court challenge on a number of different grounds, and currently a judge in Wake County decided that the constitutional amendment was improper because of the way the legislature was composed that enacted it. So that is on appeal, and so we're going to obviously watch what happens with that. And there have been other challenges currently and over the years, particularly on voter ID. So from our perspective, it makes it a little bit difficult to plan, but we react quickly, so we'll be ready whatever is the final result of the voter ID requirement.
Absolutely, and we're your partners, and we can help get that word out. Now, you touched earlier about candidate filing for the municipal election. Just give our viewers a little more insight about which offices in Durham are on the ballot.
Sure. So for the city of Durham, we've got the mayor, which is a 2-year term, so that one will be up again. We've also got 3 seats that are at large that will be up for re-election this year as well. So the 3 at-large seats, 2017 we did the ward-specific seats. Now we're focusing at those at-large positions for the city of Durham and the mayor, of course.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to circle back to the issue of the IDs, and I'm glad to hear that we are being very proactive and going to have two machines to do that. So is that going to be something that's free to Durham residents to get an ID?
Yes.
Do we have any idea how many people in Durham will need these IDs? How many people don't? Things that we take for granted, like driver's license, or do we have any idea how many people might need this?
Well, we're hopeful that the State Board of Elections will provide us information. They have access to DMV records, and we do to a degree as well, not to the extent that the State Board does. But what we're hoping to get from them, and this will assist certainly with outreach efforts on our end to engage folks that may not have an acceptable form of ID for voting, as it currently is to hopefully get a list of voters where they don't have, or individuals in certain residencies or cities, towns, where there is not a match in the DMV database for those individuals. And I'm assuming the state would probably start with a voter registration database first, because they could merge that against DMV records to see where they don't have a responsive match. And hopefully there'll be some other tools through third-party groups in Durham. We've got an active third-party community in terms of political activity. And the hope would be that those parties could help us reach certain geographic and demographic areas to conduct that outreach.
One of the groups probably most impacted are the elderly, and there is one provision in the voter ID requirement that allows people over 65 to use an expired driver's license, because I know a lot of elderly people stop driving.
That's right.
And they keep their old, my mother did this, she kept her old driver's license or ID even though it had expired 5 years ago. But if you were, if you had an active driver's license when you turned 65, that's a valid ID from then on.
And actually a big trend now is that even young people are not necessarily getting their driver's licenses, so that might be another target. So what is being done to educate the community about the photo ID requirements?
So we're actually required by the session law referenced earlier, 2018-144. The state is actually required to conduct at least 2 voter outreach events educating the community on the photo ID requirements in North Carolina in each county. The Durham County Board of Elections has opted to conduct 6 events, so we've gone above and beyond the baseline requirements, much to the surprise of probably the state that we would go that route. But of course, we deeply care about voting in Durham and engaging our citizens, very active citizens. So we're planning 4 events in English and 2 in Spanish. 4 events. The 4 events will be conducted at North Regional Library, South Regional Library, East Regional Library, and Eno River Unitarian Fellowship. And we plan to do 2 Spanish or Latino-focused events at our Health and Human Services building. We're still communicating with the state before we distribute the exact dates for those events, but we do plan to conduct those 6 in conjunction with the state and our Board of Elections.
Well, thank you so much. We're about out of time. We've got just a few seconds to talk about how people can get more information about what you do, website, phone number.
Yeah, so visit our website, www.decovotes.com. We can also be reached at 919-560-0700 for general calls. And we can be emailed at elections@dconc.gov.
Great. Well, I want to thank you both for all you do to make sure we have successful elections in Durham County. And we're going to have you back soon just to kind of talk about things maybe later on in the year. We're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we will talk about Durham Pre-K expansion. Stay with us.
Please have a seat. I'll be honest. Your resume, not what I'm used to.
I know.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need a hard worker.
Good. I've got 2 part-time jobs and to help my parents pay the bills.
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find, cultivate, and train a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Chair Jacobs, let's continue our show.
Thanks, Deborah, and thank you, Linda and Cheryl, for being with us here today. In my State of the County address, I highlighted the important priority of high-quality pre-K for all children in Durham and the investment that we're making in the county. And could you tell us, why is high-quality pre-K for all children in Durham so important?
Well, I'll start us off just saying that, Durham is a vibrant community, and obviously we really care about our future. And a primary goal of preschool education is really to address the learning and growth and future achievement of our youngest citizens. I think that, in Durham, we value education, and obviously we value the research that's out there. And the research really shows and tells us that a high-quality early education really impacts the lifelong trajectory for our children. We know from the county's investment in local research on Durham, we know that for every one child that lives in poverty in Durham that gets a public pre-K space, we know that there are 6 children living in poverty that do not have access to a public pre-K space. We want to have a very broad program in Durham and open it up to all of our families in the long run, because we know that all children thrive in a high quality pre-K experience. But that evidence that we see that there's not enough publicly supported spaces means that many children are being left behind. And when we talk about public spaces, we mean 4-year-old opportunities in NC Pre-K, which is supported by the state, as well as in the Durham Public School Pre-K programs, as well as in our Head Start. And the local investment from Durham that we're calling Durham Pre-K really wraps all those programs together so that we can open it up for families more broadly.
And how does this program benefit the Durham community?
I think the program will benefit the Durham community by being able to meet families who might not necessarily qualify for the normal programs that we have in existence, NC Pre-K, Head Start, because of economic reasons. With Durham Pre-K, it's going to be a more broader approach that while you may not qualify for a free program, you may have a sliding fee scale that would allow you to still participate in a program that will help families who are in the middle class range. And I think that's important because we want to have very diverse classrooms that are not just focusing on one population. While it is important to focus on populations that are having a little bit more challenges, but we do want to have classrooms that have great diversity and mixture that will help all children.
Yeah, and I think one thing about investing in the early education of our children, all the research really shows us that it reduces costs in the long run. So for our Durham community, we would have less children who would need special education services, who might need remedial assistance, and the long-term economic gains that come from children who are able to successfully navigate the academic realm and thrive in the future in their careers really will have a direct economic impact on the Durham community.
Right. And Cheryl, I want to recognize you as being one of our inaugural classrooms.
Yes.
That I did recognize you during my State of the County address, that you are one of our first Durham Pre-K classrooms, and you are a historic Pre-K program here in Durham. So I want to recognize you for that.
Yes, Durham has a rich legacy of high-quality child care centers who have actually been providing high quality for years. White Rock Baptist Church, who is another inaugural site that will be joining with us in Durham Pre-K, and myself. My mother founded our school in 1972. And there are other small community schools who have been in existence for a long time. And I know that some of those schools are, while they weren't chosen in the initial inaugural class because it was a small selection, but they are a part of the pipeline, and they are interested, and there is a lot of interest from these high quality programs to be a part of Durham Pre-K. We're all very excited in the child care community for this program. It's going to open up a lot of doors for teachers, for families, for children especially, and for our community.
And in your investment in the Durham supply and demand study that we did. We polled families, and in 2018, over 2,000 families responded to the survey, and 92% of families felt strongly that a free or near free, high quality public pre-K experience was of high value. And I think, in many communities, investments, there are competing priorities for resources. And we know that this investment early, we hope, will mean that there will need to be fewer investments in the long run, for especially in the arena of, crime and remedial programs for people who have dropped out of school and other long-term gains such as that. The research really shows that for every dollar that's invested in early childhood, the benefits translate to between $3 and $13 return on investment. And from the taxpayer's point of view, there aren't a lot of things you invest in that show those kind of returns.
Absolutely. How will you ensure that the Durham Pre-K classrooms are high quality?
Well, this is one thing I like to tell people across the state. Durham is not just investing dollars in direct service classrooms for children. We are also investing in coaching and modeling for teachers in classrooms and for our early education programs. So we have what we call the pipeline, which is an opportunity for early education programs to apply before becoming Durham Pre-K to receive intensive coaching and modeling services in literacy, social emotional development, in curriculum implementation, all the things that go into making a program high quality. Those quality indicators in Durham Pre-K, such as low staff-to-child ratios, supports for special needs, and other types of supports for English language learners, as well as especially in the round of healthy social behaviors. Those things, those investments are really designed to bring the quality up across Durham and not just in the direct Durham Pre-K services.
So how will Durham attract and retain high quality teachers?
That's my other little thing. Cheryl lives this every day in her program of being able to retain her teachers, and you've had some long-term teachers at your school.
I have. I've had teachers been with me since 2006. And I think it's an environment that you create, and it's a family that we're working on creating and making sure that we encourage and support our teachers. Like, for example, today our teachers are attending a training that's being held at Child Care Services, and a teacher texted me this morning, great, another teacher that we worked with previously was also at the training. Yeah. So it's building a collaborative network of like-minded individuals who not only share the same kind of passion, but they can also share ideas, they can share experiences, and they can learn from one another. So I think the more that we create programs that are intertwining with one another, we will be able to retain and keep high-quality teachers.
One thing, that collegiality is so important, but the other thing, system-wise, what Durham is doing that's different than some places is we are actually requiring, through Durham Pre-K, that teachers all be compensated, not only that teachers be credentialed with a birth to kindergarten certification, but that those teachers be paid on the Durham Public Schools scale. And if you read about other communities, sometimes those requirements are not there, and you have inequities in teachers who are working in private locations versus public school teachers. In the early education realm, teachers are often underpaid, and that means that they may be under-credentialed. And in Durham Pre-K, we're not only requiring those credentials, but we're also paying for those credentials. And hopefully that will reduce turnover and help us be well-positioned to hire the best teachers.
Absolutely. So how are the pre-K classrooms chosen?
Well, Cheryl just went through this. It's quite rigorous. What we have developed is an application process that's a two-component process. One is there are the materials that they have to provide demonstrating their competence and showing the credentials of their teachers that they either already have or are hiring for the classroom.
We're working towards.
Working towards hiring, yeah. And they also have to provide evidence of their instructional strategies and curriculum and complete basically some very intense paperwork. Then the applications are scored independently by evaluators who have early childhood expertise, and they are ranked. And then those in the top rankings go through a second component of review, which involves what we call a class assessment. And that's a classroom assessment scoring system that's evidence-based, that's been being used in Head Start for a number of years. And we are moving toward using it not as a punitive lens for classrooms, but as an ongoing professional development lens. But only those classrooms who score at the highest levels in the different domains can be considered for Durham Pre-K.
So that's exciting news that the process is rigorous, and we have found the most excellent ones for this time. So where can parents go to find out more information about the programs and the classrooms?
Well, we are right now registering for the fall. So if you have a child that is 4 years old by August 31st. Thanks for reminding me. They have to be 4 by August 31st to be eligible. And in the registration process, a counselor will work with the family to fill out all the paperwork. So you can call 919. I have to refer to my numbers, 919-314-6813 to make an appointment. And those appointments are available at varied times to be convenient for families. Or you can walk in over at the Jim and Carolyn Hunt Early Childhood Resource Center, located at 1201 South Briggs Avenue in Durham, right down the street from Durham Tech. Or you can go to some community-based dates, and those are through the East Durham Children's Initiative as well as some other local groups. And if you call that number, or you can look online at the website for Durham's Partnership for Children or Child Care Services Association or Durham Public Schools. You can find information online.
Very good, and we've got about a minute left.
Okay. Well, this is great, and I think the important thing is that people are going to help parents fill out these applications and not to worry about that part of the process.
Right.
What are some other ways that you feel like the Durham community can get involved and help support this goal of universal access to high quality pre-K for all children in Durham?
Well, I'm thankful for our Board of County Commissioners for agreeing and pushing this through and seeing the need for this in our community and stepping up to the plate to take care of our youngest citizens. So that's a huge big step in the right direction. And I think if we could get more private sector businesses to become involved and understand the importance of not waiting for remedial help later, but identifying it early, because that's one of the things that we focus on, is helping families identify things that their children may be struggling with that they have normalized in their lives. So I think if we can get private dollars and private volunteers and public figures to continue to see the importance of early childhood education, that's a huge step in the right direction.
I agree. And one of the biggest things right now during the registration period is if you know somebody who has a 4-year-old or a 3-year-old, you need to make sure, because that 3-year-old will be 4 before you know it. Right. Make sure they know about it and look into it.
And even if they can't get in Durham Pre-K, they can get in Head Start at 3 years old. So.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, we've had an exciting conversation. I wish we had more time, but we'll have to get you on again to share some additional great information. Thank you both so much for what you do with our community, with our youngest children, and please come back again. Chair Jacobs, we had a great conversation once again.
We have, and I just again want to acknowledge this very important work that is going on. And Cheryl, as you said, Durham County can't do it alone. It's going to cost us $15 million to really achieve this goal. And so we're going to need everybody's participation in our most important resource, our children.
Yep. All right, well, we want to thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time on In Touch with Durham County. Cheers.